Hey, hello, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. We are just starting, getting back to you again. It's another African Women in Trade webinar, July webinar. This webinar was waited for such a long time, and now we are starting to go live again, and we're excited to have our guest here who is already with us. And I know most of you are asking, what's the topic for today? Today is a very important topic, as you all know. We all talk about trade. We talk about so many issues that are applying whenever you have to do logistics, especially. And today is especially that you have been asking as Africa Women in Trade, how do we deal with this logistic thing? Yes, we want Africa continent of free trade area. Yes, want to sell to each other. The opportunities are there. Everything is said, but how do we solve the logic? So today I have my guest of honor, and I'm so happy to have her here because she'll be coming to share with us how is she solving those issues and problems. And we are now already on Facebook, and I can see you joining in slowly from Facebook. On the group, we have a page, Africa Women in Trade, and then we also have on Twitter and YouTube. So guys, if you're there, let me know where you're listening us from. And as we continue this conversation, because it's going to be a very interesting conversation here. And what I need from you from now is start thinking of the question, whatever questions as we are presenting, because this is going to be a lot of information for you. But put the questions on the chat as we are moving on, and I'll go through all the chats and see all your questions. Will come here to my side, and I'll be able to ask all your questions. Of course, we have some few questions with us because these are topics that we really want to tackle and see how are we solving this. And this young lady, and I'm telling you, ladies, youth, you're blowing our minds off with the technology that you're really advancing, all of us out there, to make sure that we are solving our own problems. And my name, as some of you who don't know me, I'm Joy ZENZ, the founder of Africa Women in Europe and Africa Women in Trade. Today I'm wearing the hat of Africa Women in Trade, where we talk about businesses. Yes, what is trade? You always ask. Just to give you an idea, Africa Women in Trade was founded in 2021, and we are going all the way to the 3 years now. And we have three big four main pillars. The first one, as I always say, information, and that's what we're doing today. We have webinars every other month, and then we do have information sharing, which is very important for our people on the ground. And then we have market access. Okay, women, we know market access is a big thing, and we are finding the best way to tackle it by using finding solution, and that's why we're here for, especially finding out how do we get that market if we cannot deal with the logistics. So today is one of them. We're killing two main pillars of today: information sharing and the market access. And then we are going to we also have another pillar which is very important: investments. How do we get money, or when we want to grow or start a business? But this time is trade, so we're talking about growing beyond wherever you are. So we always say, start where you are. Let's see whether that product is selling. And if it's selling, go to the next village, yeah, and then go on into the next province before you come to us for trading. Your product is ready and needed in the market. And then we can start with the cross borders, just neighboring countries. And then that's the time we are starting to trade. And that's the time we need to link up with you to help you to grow to the next level. Thank you, Cornelia. I can see you're joining me here from Germany, and everybody else, let me know where you're listening us from. So I'm happy to invite myself, GUGU, and her name is so simple. It's just like Joy. So you cannot forget our names for sure. So thank you so much, Madam GUGU, for coming. And I hope you can hear us well. I hope I've put up the right one. We have, let me hear whether you can hear us so that I know which one I've put up. We had techie issues. Let me know. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys. Thank you so much for having me on your channel.
Thank you so much for having me. So GUGU CISO is the co-founder of CEO of Thumeza. I'm sure I'm saying it not the right way, but you're gonna tell us the right way. But the best way to introduce you, Gugu, is just telling you a little bit about her, because she is a serial entrepreneur, and she's, as I mentioned, Gugu is also the co-founder of retail B2B startup in Namibia. That netted profit equity investment through revenues 7 times, and counted giants such as ShopRite, Checkers as client before her exit in 2017. So currently, she is the CEO of Thumeza, a fintech that provides data powered financing for the supply chain sector in the South Africa, Kenya, and Uganda. And she will tell us more how she does that. And she is a thought leader in her industry who has been quoted in Forbes Africa, Disrupt Africa, and Brighter on the state of logistics, as well as funding for female-led startups on the continent. So I'm so excited to have you here. I know you have so much to offer us today, and just not to interrupt so much. So guys, don't forget, bring your questions, tap their questions, let us know where you're listening from, as we hear from her and her presentation. So welcome, Google. This is your stage, African Power. And before I forget, is Africa Women's Month awareness. So
Yeah.
Africa Women Day is coming up. So it's all about women, and that I'll be sharing more on that as well as we come closer. But guys, it's Africa's Women Day, a very important day for all of us, and we are happy to celebrate you as we are doing this as well. So welcome on the stage.
Thank you so much, Joy, for having me. And I'm excited to be among a group of, I'm guessing, extremely well accomplished African women, as well as other women across the world who are active within the trading stage. So, once again, thank you so much for having me today.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It's an honor always. We have been trying to have this conversation for some time now, right?
Of course.
And finally, we are here. So, guys, get your people, share on different platforms. Tell them we have found a logistic solution. We don't need to go far. The solutions are in the continent. So the stage is all yours. I'll put up your presentation as
Cool.
you let us know more about your product and how you're solving logistic issues in the continent, Mother Africa. Welcome.
No worries. Thank you so much once again for having me. So maybe just to start off, I'd just like to tell you a bit of a story about how exactly I got into logistics itself. So growing up, I had an uncle. I don't know if you can still see my presentation or it's just my face as of now. Hmm. Yeah, that's great. Let me just do a little test. That's perfect. Great. So let me start that again. So as I was saying, growing up, I had an uncle who used to own a logistics company in Zimbabwe. I'm a Zimbabwean I'm a Zimbabwean national as well as a citizen. So he was very successful and used to get lucrative contracts from companies such as Choppies, who are one of the largest retailers here in Southern Africa. As you can imagine, this was something to celebrate, being able to get a contract with such a large supermarket. But unfortunately, as a trucker, access to financing was something that was extremely beyond him, as it didn't have collateral nor verifiable operational data. By operational data, I mean things such as, financial records, a contract in writing that, a financier could actually refer to, as well as get a recommendation based off. And as a result, he couldn't get access to financing and could not afford to continue servicing the contracts that he had worked so hard to get. As you can imagine, this is an issue that's not just, singular to Zimbabwe, but is an issue being faced by hundreds of thousands of small-scale transporters who are active across Africa's $300 billion logistics economy across Africa. That's not a small number to speak of, right? And if you're saying that hundreds of thousands of small-scale transporters are facing this issue, this is not something that we can afford to continue ignoring. So this is, once again, of those hundreds of thousands of small-scale transporters, I just like to point out once again that they make up about 70% of the players that are active across Africa's logistics infrastructure, logistics infrastructure, and about 80% of them cannot get access to collateral, cannot get access to credit, similar to the situation that my uncle was facing. So the problem that we're now looking to solve is an inability to get financing due to a lack of collateral, as well as firm contracts by small-scale transporters. The second problem that's being faced by the small-scale transporters is the lack of verifiable operational data from the contract provider to say that indeed, let's say GUGU's uncle is indeed a transporter with us, and we can vouch for him to say that he's got a contract that's worth 30 days old, that's worth 30 days, and he'll be getting paid, let's say, $1,000 a month. This is something that's very important should you be able to try and attempt to get financing. On the other hand, you've got this issue where the contract holder is also facing the problem of being able to maintain, or rather juggle, the demand of them being able to provide transportation solutions to actually move goods on the day-to-day basis on behalf of their clients, as well as them also managing the demands of their own cash flows. As you can imagine, transporters need money upfront in order to be able to pay for fuel, pay for, let's say, import and export duties, particularly for those that are cross-border transporters, as well as other day-to-day operational expenses, such as being able to pay for insurance, being able to pay for truck maintenance, and that needs money. So if you have, let's say, 30 to 60 to 90-day payment terms, that means that you are under the obligation to pay for the day-to-day operational expenses of this contract whilst being paid after the fact. This is something that not a lot of small-scale transporters are able to afford. Our solution as Thumeza is to provide a loan management platform to deploy working capital financing to small-scale transporters, allowing them to scale their day-to-day capacity. So how exactly do we do this? We've got a product that is an online solution that allows small-scale transporters to be able to access it online, request for financing, as well as get it based on the strength of their contract. How it works is that a transporter will log in to the Thumeza platform, request for financing is set against an active contract. We'll then verify the data with the transporter's contract holder. So in this situation, saying that GUGU's uncle is saying that he's got a contract with Choppies. We'll then go to Choppies to then verify to say that is this contract active? What are the payment terms between you and the transporter, as well as with Choppies? We'll then provide the financing to the transporter and enforce the contract between the transporter as well as us as a credit provider. Lastly, we'll then collect the funds from the contract holder, directly from the contract holder being Choppies, once the funds have been paid out, making sure that we're able to manage the risk of the transporter being unable to pay should anything happen in the worst case scenario. So the market that we're targeting, and this is just to give you an indication of how large, Africa's logistics economy is we've got an estimated $300 billion worth of logistics that's happening within Africa. Of this, as said, over 70% of these are small-scale transporters as well as small-scale traders who make up this large demographic. Over 80% of these are unable to get access to financing, and we are just targeting a $1 billion worth of this particular market that we believe will be able to finance within the next 5 to 10 years. So our revenue model is based on us charging 5% per month for every transaction. This is where a contract holder borrows funds directly from us in order for them to manage their own logistics costs. So an example of this would be, let's say, a small medium enterprise that is saying that I have got small scale transporters that I contract in order for them to move my day-to-day deliveries to. Unfortunately, I need funds in order to be able to pay this, as my own suppliers of my own contractors are paying me in 30 to 60 days. So we'll charge you 5% per month in order for you to be able to get access to our funds. If, let's say, you don't want to carry the onus of borrowing the funds directly from Thumeza in order to service the logistics of your logistics needs, we'll actually pay you a 0.5% 0.5% referral fee in order for you to give us access to your transporters on a month-on-month basis. So this is an opportunity for you to make money from giving early stage access to your small-scale transporters, allowing them to keep moving goods on your behalf without you worrying about how exactly you're going to pay them when you need to pay them. So to put this into context, for every $100 that we borrow out to our transporters or to our clients, we get back $105 for every transaction. Our loan tenures range from 30 days up to 90 days, depending on the relationship that we have with you, as well as how often you need the financing that you'll be requesting from Thumeza. So to date, we've been active for the past about 12 months, about 15 months rather. And since then, we've been able to net a month-on-month client demand of 18 million US dollars on a month-on-month basis. So what this means is that small-scale transporters as well as traders are requesting for financing on a month-on-month basis for financing of $18 million in order for them to pay their transporters in order to keep their goods moving on a month-on-month basis. Of this amount, we've been able to disperse 1.5 million US dollars. So it's us assisting clients such as yourselves who are either small-scale transporters or small-scale traders that need financing in order to keep their goods moving across the borders. Of these, we've got average repayment periods of our loans being 30 to 60 days, and we're currently registered as an NCR credit provider out of South Africa. As Joy had mentioned, we currently have a presence in South Africa, Kenya, and Uganda, with our main presence being in South Africa. We're able to count clients, exciting startups such as Wello, as well as established SMEs in South Africa, such as Latlo Logistics, as well as exciting up-and-coming lorry systems, up-and-coming logistics aggregators such as Lorry Systems, as well as the United Nations Development Program as our partners, who we had been able to have a pilot program between the borders of Zambia and Zimbabwe, where we're able to move goods on behalf of small-scale cross-border traders between the Zimbabwean and Zambian border, where we would move goods on their behalf in a safe, affordable, as well as most importantly, in a compliant way, as this is the first step in allowing this particular demographic to get access to financing is you need to be compliant. So that's a product, that's a program that we're currently working on with the UNDP. We're currently working with with large-scale financiers out of Germany who provide us with access to financing. So that's what one of them had to say. We've got a 5-year relationship with them, and this is what they had to say with them. This is what they had to say about us. Additionally, we're also working with a medium-scaled logistics business based out of South Africa that does cross-border deliveries between South Africa and Botswana. They're saying that we've been able to help grow their business and help them manage the demands of their clients without them worrying about cash flows. He knows that if he's got a problem, he's able to just pick up the phone and he will have it solved. So that's something that we place a great emphasis on, to say that regardless of us being a tech-enabled platform, you have the opportunity to just pick up a phone and know that there is a voice on the other end of the phone that will be able to listen to you and give you a solution to your financing problem. So the team is extremely passionate about providing access to financing, as we ourselves were previously a logistics company that were forced to shut down because we didn't have access to finance. So aside from being inspired to get into the logistics sector because of my uncle's problem, we ourselves also got into the logistics space and realized that it's not something that is so easily done, and access to financing is one of the larger issues that really make getting into logistics extremely hard. So I said, I myself I'm the CEO, and I've previously co-founded a B2B startup in Namibia that provided solutions to retailers. We've been able to raise private equity funding and grow our revenue 7x before my eventual exit in 2017. My co-founder, as well as our CFO, Tebogo, is an experienced financial manager as well as accountant who has over 5 years worth of experience working within the banking sector, as well as development financing sectors within South Africa. Our CTO, Manesengudia, is a full stack developer who has built our previous iterations of Thumeza, as well as got over 5 years worth of experience building solutions for African startups as well as European startups, predominantly were those in Germany. If you'd like to reach out to us to hear more about our financing solution, as well as our logistic, as well as our solution, helping small-scale cross-border traders move goods across borders, you can reach out to us. Our business developer, Stacey Nyati, is more than happy to hear from you. As said, if you pick up the phone or send her an email, she will definitely be able to have a chat with you and provide a solution that makes sense to your financing as well as your logistics needs. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for sharing that. As I'm waiting for others to come up to bring questions up. We're going to go straight to just a few that I have here with me. And
No
first of all,
problem.
congratulations of what you have done and the processes that you have done. But my question for you, basically, most of the people here are asking, because most
Yeah,
of the women in trade are already in businesses and they were looking
yeah.
for to use your solution. Yeah. What is the step-by-step process for them to really, when they come to your website, and I did try to put up your website here just for them to check. Is there a step-by-step process you can help the women to understand how finally try? Because what I try to talk a lot with them, because I work more with the micro small businesses, and
Yeah.
I'll give you an example why we have this topic very important. We met in South Africa and for expo, and to bring the products from anywhere, wherever there were other people from Kenya, from Nigeria,
Yeah.
from Rwanda, and they had all these issues for sending the product. But funny enough, the products never arrived on time as we needed them, and
Uh,
and that meant that they could not showcase their products properly. And the problem was sometimes just within the country, because the South Africa could not move the product. I don't know the regulations or something around
yeah,
there
yeah,
takes long before they release the products, especially if it's an expo and things like that. So this was a big issue for our members, and we are going to be having more expos here. And before I announce to people where else you're going next year, because you always have a break for 1 year, but we
yeah.
need to see that we are solving these issues. So can you walk us, a step-by-step person want to send their products from, let's say, because you said you're in Kenya and South Africa, let's use those two countries. How is the process?
Okay, cool. So maybe let me just clarify. We've got two products, right? So the product where we're active in Kenya and Uganda is our financing product, where we assist small-scale transporters that move the goods on behalf of, let's say, Joy with her trading business. So we do not exactly provide the logistics service within Kenya and Uganda. However, if you are in Zimbabwe or you are in Zambia, which is where we're currently piloting the logistics service, we're definitely able to help you. So just to bear this in mind, so that when I'm taking you through the step-by-step, just know that if it's only for those two particular territories. Great. So how exactly it works is that we've got an online option, right, where you can get onto the Thumeza platform, or if you can, we've got particular warehouses in this that work through retailers, right? So let's say you've got your neighborhood shop where you usually go to buy bread. So we've been able to get into agreements with these particular retailers where they act as our warehouses, as well as our pickup and drop-off points of goods. So in advance, if let's say you don't have network, you can go to this particular to this particular retailer who give you a quotation based on the goods, on the amount of goods, their volume, as well as their value, on how much it's going to cost you on a logistics basis. And then secondly, we'll also be able to give you a quotation based on how much it's going to cost you to actually export those goods. Because that's one of the issues that we face, that sometimes you don't know how much it's going to cost you to move your goods unless you pay an agent, a cross-border agent, or you actually go to the border yourself. And as we can imagine, going to the border yourself is not something that you want to do as a female trader or as a single trader, because it's quite expensive. You're also going to be likely to get charged on a thumbs up price, where someone will be like, oh, Joy, you look like you've got money. Something that, let's say, is supposed to cost you $2 will suddenly cost you $10, right?
Yeah.
Or someone says, Joy looks like she's a cross-border trader. I bet you that Joy is carrying money. So she's more likely to get robbed because they know that she's carrying a large amount of money.
Mm.
So by providing the service, getting you a quote in advance before you even decide to get your goods, you can make an educated decision on whether or not to actually move your goods. So let's say that you've then decided to actually move your goods. You then take your goods to the drop-off point. This can still be done either through the online process of logging onto Thumeza.io and taking it through, or going through your retailer who'll be able to go through this process on your behalf. You go and drop off your goods, right? Fill out the documentation to say that I'm carrying, let's say, a case of water that I want to move from Livingston into Victoria Falls. It's going to cost me, let's say, $5 in terms of logistics, and it's going to cost me, let's say, nothing because there's a commercial agreement between Zimbabwe and Zambia, right? So these are things that we help you to be able to take advantage of that you may not necessarily be able to do. Then in future, we understand that there are some territories where, let's say, there is no particular trade agreement or no particular trade in regional blocks. So we'll then be able to say between the agreement between your two countries, this is going to cost you X amount of money in order to move the goods across the border. So you then pay the Thumeza agent. They'll put a sticker on your packaging to then tell you that your goods are, let's say, going to move on Wednesday. You've dropped them off on Tuesday. They're going to move on Wednesday. You can expect a message, let's say Wednesday evening or Thursday morning, saying that your goods are now in Zimbabwe and you can now pick them up. So based on the information that you gave us, predominantly your cell phone number, you will then get a text message giving you an alert to say that your goods are now your goods have now left the warehouse, your goods are now at the border getting cleared, and your goods have now arrived at the drop-off point. So please send someone with this particular tracking number or send yourself with your ID in order now to pick up your goods. So the whole point of this particular exercise is to make sure that the cross-border trader themselves does not have to cross the border. You can just send your goods without you having to do it yourself.
Wow, wow. So if I understand right, so you use the
Yeah,
retailers themselves or the people with the shops to be the people to do all the logistics work. And I see that also here in Europe because also for the drop off is normally in
exactly.
a shop
Yeah.
somewhere.
Don't
So but
recreate something new, right? It's already
yeah,
working. There's someone who's already got the infrastructure, they've got space. Why not utilize them?
and
Because it's
and
someone that's
they
also
have
well
an
known in the community.
yeah, and they have an agreement with you. Of course, it's also a business for them as well.
Of
So,
course,
guys, you can hear this that there's a solution coming up. So, if you're a business person, you said 2 countries you're piloting this. So, you said Zimbabwe and
Zambia.
Zambia because they are cross borders. Yeah,
Yes,
they're very
exactly. Yes,
I love the idea of the cross-border traders. This is something because that's where the most hustling of our women is anyway. Because
exactly.
the rest we don't move, but this one there's a lot of hustling and it solves a lot of problems. So Zambia and Zimbabwe, you're there. So
Yes,
uh,
exactly.
we have people with businesses. I know Zambia, we already have someone there for Africa women in trade. You never know, and you can work together and be able to be the place to bring the products to the Zimbabwean people. I love the idea. And then
Of course.
we talked about so that means they don't have to bother themselves or the mind or the background. That's where the second part comes in.
Yeah,
The part that we are not seeing, that we put the products there, they were solved, they were taken, and you're now solving
exactly.
problems now in the and walk through that again so that people understand how you're solving this because there are so many problems intertwined because that's where the financing come in. You mentioned that if they're not able, so the logistic part. Can you walk us through that one now? The logistic part,
Do you mean the logistics
the
financing part?
movement, the finally movement. How do the back end work now? So
Oh, okay.
they have dropped my goods. I know I'll pick them up 3 days. You'll tell me when but how is the movement there in the back?
Okay. Okay, cool, no problem. So I said that we have a background in being able to aggregate transporters. We're a logistics aggregator, right? So we work with a large pool of truck owners as well as other transportation agencies that have got vehicles that are already plying, let's say, this particular route. So our aim, in order for us to make this as affordable as possible for you, the trader, is to take advantage of the truckers or rather the transportation systems that are already in place. So there's a transporter that also has got the ability to register on our network to say, hey, my routes between, let's say, the Zambia and Zimbabwe border post are, let's say I go 4 times every week, right? So they then will then be able to say that, okay, we've got, let's say, 100 kgs worth of goods that we aggregate, that need to be moved on these particular days. So this transporter having their own goods will then just come and pick up these goods, put them onto the truck, and then cross the border with them. So it makes it cheaper because we don't have to go out there and hire a truck or a vehicle specifically for the movements of those goods. So our whole aim is to make this as cheap as possible through sharing the expense, through utilizing the systems as well as the transportation systems that are already in place. So it's really depends a lot on the ride sharing exercise. But worst case scenario, like what's happening right now, should there not be any transportation services, you will not know because the goods will get there at the end of the day. So how exactly the goods happen to be there, let's say to say they're getting there on Wednesday, is none of your business as the trader. You don't have to go out there and have to start, negotiating with the trucker. Once we've quoted you, your goods will get there on the particular day we told you.
Wow. So that means because most of the traders that I'm dealing with here, they're bulky sellers. Some of them are
Mm,
vegetable sellers. So I'm thinking they are cooler, means
exactly.
for that, all that they don't have to worry, but the goods will be in good condition. I'm sure the insurance is included there.
Exactly. That's also there. It's also there. So
So
in
means
your
you as
logistics
a seller,
costs,
you don't have to worry anything.
exactly. In your logistics costs, we have goods in transit insurance, right? So we pay a premium that makes sure that all your goods are covered for, let's say, a particular financial year, right? And then in your logistics cost, there's a certain percentage that goes towards that. So it's a little contribution to say that should things hit the fan, you know that you're covered. So we also do have a demarcation for non-perishable as well as perishable goods. We understand that non-perishable goods cannot, let's say, take 2 days to be in transit. This is something that, let's say, has to be there within the same day, within a particular period. Right. So there's definitely also demarcation, which is why we put that emphasis to say that you can get this request or this quotation in advance for you to tell us that what exactly are you moving? Is it non-perishable? Is it tomatoes? Tomatoes have to go on the same day, as
Mm.
opposed to, let's say, water. Water can, let's say, arrive in 2 days. So you can then make a choice for the logistics to cost to say that, am I able to, let's say, swallow something a bit more expensive because I want it to be expedited? Or is it something that's non-perishable that can take a couple more days because I just wanted to get there at the end of the day?
Wow, wow. So I think you've solved out of a brain thinking of what is what, and I'm sure through their
Yeah,
website and everybody I can see you're listening all there. Please ask your questions. This is very, very important. You ask for logistic questions. This is the lady tell you what is happening in the continent because she's doing it practically on the
yeah,
continent and she's doing her very best. And I can see a lot of opportunities here. If you're not, I will be sharing with you. She already talked about if you have a shop in Zimbabwe and Zambia, you can be able to be the place to pick up the shop. So that's already an opportunity there. But you need to
exactly.
contact them. And she did share her contact. Maybe you can put your contact emails there as well so that I can share. But I think everything is on your website, right? So if you
Yes,
go
exactly.
to tumeza.io, there's an opportunity there. So and if you didn't listen, you're joining now, don't worry. We have recorded YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, but I need you to start asking your questions. I can see some of you are putting a lot of information there. I definitely need logistics. Thank you, Ruth. I definitely need logistics solution across Africa. Yes, she's piloting now. So we already know she's doing it now. There's a lot of way of connection with the Africa women in trade there. I can see someone sending from Hamburg and Namibia. They are there already. My people, greetings from Namibia. Thank you for joining. And of course, South Africa is also here, and she's asking a question as well. I need to move my products across Africa. Currently, shockingly expensive. Let's talk about expenses. So you're
Yeah,
saying according to your to the way your logistic is happening, you're reducing the cost so that it's affordable for the MSMEs. Yeah. So that
yeah,
it's also for all the SMEs because even the logistic people are also in business for everybody else.
exactly.
So is there a practical way a price logistic way how you're making the prices competitive, knowing that you have competitors out there, like the I'm not gonna mention
Yes,
them,
of course.
you
Of
know,
course.
all those
Free
that
advertising.
that's right. But what I like, I see the uniqueness around you as well in that. But how are the costs compared with the others?
Okay, so maybe to give you an example, right? Let's say maybe just to stick onto that case of water, right? So a case of water right now, in order for you to move it across the Zimbabwe and the Zambia border post, currently will cost you at about $8. Excluding, let's say, the export duties. Unfortunately, this is not something that's in our control. It's the taxation systems. We cannot do anything for you. The reason why it's $8, let's say, opposed to, let's say, it being something close to similar to $30 for the same service, with another service provider, is that we are aggregating the cost to say that we're spreading the cost all across the goods that are being moved in that particular point, right? And once again, we're utilizing service providers that are already crossing the border regardless. So we are not moving a truck specifically, let's say, for them to move the goods. So what you find with these other service providers is that, unfortunately, because logistics is expensive because of things such as fuel. They also have to bear the cost of wear and tear of the truck, insurance, maintenance, XYZ. So for them to provide this logistics service, the cost of them even switching on the engine has already have to be encompassed in them for moving the truck from point A to B. But for us, because we're saying that we're looking for someone who is already going, so their cost has already been attributed. So for them here, for us, they're really just looking for pure profit. And once again, we're looking for people that are looking for pure profit because they are already moving across the border. And secondly, we're looking to aggregate those goods instead of just saying that these goods are only moving at one at a time, right? So for the non-perishables, like what we're doing right now, to say your goods will only move on the Wednesday. So it's to make sure that we've got as many goods as possible to make sure that the price is as low as possible because we've got volumes, as opposed to it just saying that we're only moving one, let's say, one case on one truck because Joy needs to move this. If you're to use that particular strategy, it's definitely going to cost you much more because there's no cost sharing strategy there. But because there's a cost sharing strategy, you'll find that we're able to get away with the $8 because we're sharing the cost all across the traders that are moving those goods across. So right now, we're really just trying to make sure that we're encouraging people to get away from the other avenues they were using, which were also a way and not always the most compliant way. Sometimes goods find their way across the border. How they do it, we're not sure. They may not always be the most legal way, but we're saying that, hey, come this way and make sure that your things are done the right way and also in a way that makes sense. So we've chosen one particular day in order for us to encourage as much goods to be used, as well as to make sure that people still now start getting into that thought process to say that, hey, there's this particular service on this particular day that makes sure that my goods will be there. Once we've got the requisite volumes in order for it to make sense, then say maybe then add another day. Then we then add another day and add another day in order for it to make sense, not just for you, but as well as for us as a business at the end of the day.
Wow, wow, that's so important. I'm just looking for questions there as well as we are moving here on all platform, and I can see some of you have left some comments there. Which countries? Sorry about my noise in the background. So, which countries don't you serve? So,
Uh,
meaning at the moment there are only two. You are planning to
Joy, you're not audible?
Oh, sorry, I was speaking to myself. Sorry.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
uh, yes, I was actually putting up a questions that has been asked here. That was which countries don't you serve? And that means right now you have Zambia and Zimbabwe, and I know maybe we can formulate it also differently, saying that which countries are you adding next? And also how fast will that be, probably, because I hear you're talking of South Africa and some of the major countries, Kenya. When are all those, and Uganda coming in?
No, it's definitely more on a staggered approach. So we're targeting places that are as close to us as possible. So I'm guessing would definitely the next one would either be within Botswana or Namibia. So bearing in mind that unfortunately we don't quite have the financial muscle of our competitors, so you have to do this step by step in a way that is as cost effective to the business as well as to the client. Because unfortunately, if I were to now suddenly, add Kenya, connecting Kenya and Zimbabwe, Kenya and Zambia is we don't have the countries that are in between that I don't have, the logistical infrastructure that's been put in place would end up making it as expensive as our competitors at the end of the day. There's no point. So we're doing it step by step to make sure that we've got as many connections as possible, making it make sense financially for you. So it's not us just expanding for the sake of expansion, because it's going to end up being expensive and we'll be wasting our efforts at the end of the day. So look at it as more of a hub sport kind of strategy. So I said most likely Botswana or Namibia, but just keep a lookout. You can follow us on our social media platforms. We'll definitely announce which are the next countries that will be
I'm
expanding.
sure Albertina will be happy. She's from Namibia. She's already here
Hey,
listening.
Bettina.
And she will be. We also have also from the other countries as well. So we have a network and a group from different countries, as you can see here. So, but I have a question here, but probably it's more with the logistics types that you're using. You talked about the only you're using the rails. Yeah, I mean not the rails. You haven't started with the trains, probably not.
Oh yeah,
And
right. Yeah.
more, is that are you using the rail, the roads, and the air, or is just only the roads at the moment?
Okay. Now, currently we're using the roads, which is freight. Unfortunately, freight is definitely the most common form of transportation system in Africa, right? If you look at the logistical infrastructure, right, rail is not something that is prevalent, right? If we could get that done, definitely our cost centers would be slashed. I truly believe by half, because it's something that
Mm,
in terms of cost, in terms of fuel, is definitely much cheaper.
mm,
Additionally, air is something that we really wish we could take advantage of. I know that there are entities such as Air Rwanda Cargo that have recently come. I think if you're in Rwanda, you can just go into Air Rwanda and check that. I think there's some discounts that are available, especially if you are a Rwandese that is looking to export goods from Rwanda into the rest of Africa, depending on the location that you're going to, that Rwanda does. It's just that the costs are just so high at this particular point that they don't quite as yet make sense. But these are some opportunities that we'd really be looking to look forward to take advantage of, especially things such as maritime, because I think maritime is one of the most cheaper forms of transportation on the continent. It's just that it's extremely difficult for landlocked countries, right, such as Zimbabwe. By the time you get to, let's say, get your closest point, the costs that you've accumulated don't even make sense for you anymore. Or
mm.
same thing when you're trying to import something from your closest port to, let's say, landlocked countries, the cost as well. So we're just utilizing the most common form of transportation system, and then looking to incorporate those that are would say are less common, but as they become more available and therefore more accessible and therefore cheaper, we'll definitely incorporate them as well.
Yeah, wow. I can see their franchising coming up in the near future, you know.
Yeah, definitely,
And
definitely,
another for East Africa, you have the SADC, you have then it's
exactly.
good to go. Then we have our own brand. That's fantastic. There's another question I had here also for you for Africa Continent of Free Trade area. And you know it very well. It's a champion
Yeah.
one market. We are all excited about this Africa Continent of Free Trade area. And there is a programs that are going on like guided trade and how are you working together with them in terms of a logistic solution and how do you see that them working with you in that direction?
Okay. This is a pretty good question, Joy. Unfortunately, if we look at the list of countries that are underneath the Guided Trade Initiative, right, we're based in SADC. And you see that in terms of logistics, the countries that are there are not, unfortunately, not the ones that, are the ones that are at the forefront of piloting. Unfortunately, I cannot force our chief negotiators to start, enacting the AFCFTA and start
I'm sure
implementing it.
before the end of the year they will add you guys.
I'm keeping my fingers crossed that they'll surprise us and say, "Hey guys, we've joined this list of countries that are underneath the Guided Trade Initiative." But I said, should, let's say, this be something that is being implemented by our countries, this is something that would definitely be at the forefront of wanting to pilot, to say, how exactly does that AFCFTA certification work in terms of real life implementation? Because it's all well and good right now, speaking about it and seeing it online, having had the privilege to be connected to other companies in Kenya that are now exporting it. But in terms of the logistical infrastructure, it's still a bit hazy about how exactly that's going on. Because you see the end product of the certification, but in terms of how exactly are those goods moving across the border, I don't think there's been as much elucidation until you're lucky enough to be in a country that is part of the piloting phase, saying that, hey, let's try this out for our own benefit. But I say, should this be something that comes within to our own backyard, we're definitely going to be one of those that put up their hand to say, hey, we're willing to try this out, to say, does 1+1 really equal 2? Is this something that needs to be fixed before full-scale implementation comes through?
Wow, wow. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, the countries or a few countries that I wonder why SADC is not there, but they
It's
say
disappointing. Yeah,
but
but
they're not even
you
one
see,
country. I know all of them. I think I got to know them, but I don't know if I
I
can
think
remember.
about Mauritius.
So
Mauritius, but
Mauritius is there.
they're
Let's
not
count them.
connected.
Guys, help us to count those countries that have been guided. If you're there and you're listening to us, put on the chat the eight. I think
Yeah,
the eight countries.
yeah,
Eight countries.
We've got Rwanda, Kenya, Mauritius. Mauritius is the only one in SADC. That's what I know definitely. Good, you only
It's
have that
almost
one,
like outside
unfortunately. So it makes it a bit difficult to really um, get in and an in-depth understanding of what does that look like when you're now at the border and you're carrying that certificate. Do they really give you, those discount tariffs? So is there someone who's saying, no, this doesn't make sense? Because we know that it's an idea until you really get to real life implementation and someone is really taking it into consideration. But I'm really keeping my fingers crossed to say that, the 8 countries that are piloting that initiative will really, really persuade, the rest of the countries to say, hey, we're opening up our borders just to test before time runs out. Because I think for the more developed countries such as Kenya, they've got about 3 years left. And then least developed countries have about 7 years left before the borders open. So time is really not our side, not on our side if we're looking at it from that angle.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm asking people to put for me the eight countries that they had that in the guided trade, because that's the next thing we are doing right now. We are in conversation with the AFCFT to see where are we getting those guys. If they miss, if my women have not had those training, then we are not yet.
Exactly.
But I can imagine they are more dealing with a high level, more a bit bigger batteries, coverage, those bigger industries. And I think they need to go down a little bit and get the real traders, because the real traders are the women, 70%, right?
Exactly.
And
Exactly. You're
these
at the
are
forefront. You're at
the
the forefront. You're hustling. You're pushing. You're not taking no for an answer. But yet, we're not being given the recognition that we deserve. Because you're not, women are not one that will go to bed hungry if they can make a plan. An excuse is simply not possible. But I would really urge you guys, if you've got the opportunity to, there's the AFCFTA Youth Symposium coming up in August. I think that's an opportunity just to really try and get real-time engagements with the secretariat, as well as get updates on how the AFCFTA is implementation is happening across the continent. Because sometimes there'll be things that are happening within your own country that unfortunately you will not have access to. But being able to engage within such forums, you can ask real-time questions that can maybe get you a real-time answer on what's going on in your own backyard.
Yeah, and that's why we are happy to have this webinar informing, and I'm be going to bring those guided trade, the ones who are responsible. I'm still in the fishing out who they are and when are
That
these
is
trades.
Google. It's online.
I know, but the thing is that you need to know when the lessons are have this guided trade, because it seems to be
Exactly.
that you have to
You're
go
right.
to the to your own country, and then from your country there is a ministry or a chamber who is doing all this. I need to
Yep.
know who exactly these are so that we are able to
Exactly.
share the women, because information is so important. Not all the women have internet, my dear friend. And my women in business, they are quickly upgrading their website before they go research where is this guided trade. you know
Initiative. No, I can imagine. No, I can
that
imagine.
is my work to do that, and I am happy to do that from this angle because I have all the internet that is in the world that I can be able to research and be able to come with the women. And I'm happy you're doing that particular solution for logistics because it's very much needed in what you do. So let's go to the challenges. What are your biggest challenges at the moment? Because it's also, I can imagine, you mentioned about investors, you're looking for investors. Can you tell us what challenges are you facing at the moment?
Um, I wouldn't even want to touch on investment. We're always looking for money. So it's something that, at some point being an SME, it's always financing, access to financing is something that's kicking. So I'd say that, we currently have a month on month demand of 18 million US dollars from our clients that need access to financing in order to pay for logistics for goods to move across the continent. So that's something that we're definitely in the market. BUB, let's say maybe a financier that's, watching this webinar, please feel free to reach out to us. There's the email address right there. A business developer would definitely be willing to have a conversation. And then in terms of the logistics aspect, I would say cross-border regulation is really a large hamper, right? So you'll find that, as I said, we're really taking the onus on our end to make sure that, we go out there and get the information on, let's say, how much is it going to cost for me to export or for me to import this particular product, right? So we try and make the cross-border traders' job much easier by us going out there and aggregating that information. Unfortunately, this information sometimes is extremely difficult to get because one, it's not online, or it's extremely outdated by the time you get it. Or by the time you get it, you find that Joy, this particular taxation entity has changed the rules. Something that maybe, let's say, cost you 1% has suddenly now become 10%, and you're wondering, when did this happen? So it's trying to get this information and aggregate it and keep it up to date on behalf of our cross-border traders is something that's really a bit frustrating. But it's something that we willingly do because we understand that it can be quite frustrating and can really discourage someone trying to move goods because it seems quite daunting because you can only get it at the border at the end of the day. This then means that someone will go out there and then take the risk of getting robbed because they just want to get to the border to then cross. So I would say that the cross-border regulation, the lack of information is something that is really quite frustrating. If there's something that, if they could take after the government of Rwanda, where you can really find anything online, and then, Google can aggregate it and give it to to a wholesaler or a retailer, so that when Joy goes to, let's say, her neighbor store to go and drop off the goods, it can easily be given to her. I think I really wish that's something the rest of the African governments and their entities could really just take as a lesson and replicate.
Yeah, it's quite sad. No, the way you're saying it's very practical, but it's just those tariffs
It's
there are
hard.
not clear.
They
Is it
change all the time, and it's not one good. Imagine how many goods do we have that have got particular restrictions or suddenly is restricted when it was not, because it's not just like, you're only dealing with one clothing. It's, let's say, someone saying canned beans, someone saying uncanned beans or canned beans and brine. Imagine all those product lines that have to be updated. It's quite frustrating when you sit down and think about it. Makes you think twice.
before you start trading? I can imagine. So, but don't give up, guys. Trading is
Definitely.
the way to go. We're gonna crack this, and you're cracking anyway this nugget so hard. I can tell you. And being a woman, I salute you because it's an area of logistics where we only see men, and as you
Yeah.
know. Trade and that's why I always say, because women, we are the ones to, as we have been known, you're traders. So also, if we have issues or problems or challenges, we are the people to create solutions for that. And we need to
Yeah,
speak of those challenges because we might think we are the only ones, and maybe somebody has already cracked that solution and they already know the solution, and your
of
work is
course,
to tell us how you crack it, because sometimes people have all this information, because I believe information is the biggest challenge, and the mindset, of course, mindset for our people, that if it's not working you just give up, but you can always find solution for everything, but and not assuming that someone has to do something for you. You have to go dig deeper and go check
of
for
course,
yourself. So
of
you
course.
are really awesome. So I promised you we're gonna be 1 hour until 4 minutes now remaining, and I can see a lot of people who are in the chat on YouTube. On thank you so much. I can see there. You all started mentioning about the countries that are there. You mentioned Tunisia. I can see some people there. Rwanda. Yes, there are a few of them, 8 of them. You can check on that. And thank you. Someone is listening from Benin. Hello, hi from Benin. I hope you people have solved just logistics in the western side of Europe, of not Europe, for Africa. Seem to have their own solutions, but they keep it to themselves. But we are watching you and learning from everybody else. And if you had any questions, put them here if you're listening now or later. And as I mentioned, you can always go to their website. You can contact them if you need more information. And but before we get there, and I give out to your website and everything, what the last word can you give me? Because this logistic is really, and when you talk about trade, logistic is the first thing that comes in your mind. How am I going to get it to you? So how can you encourage them? Also the best way to do, because I like some of your points. You said you talk about cross border, which is much less cumbersome, much less not expensive. What tip can you give these my women who are listening here, who are getting into trade or wanting to go into trade, and they're getting very frustrated with the logistic issues?
Yeah. I would say look for your closest cross-border trader association, right? So I know that in Zambia we've got the Livingston Cross-Border Traders Association, in Zimbabwe we've got the Zimbabwe Cross-Border Traders Association, amongst many others. So being able to get into a group or community of other like-minded traders makes your life much easier, because you're able to get tips as well as strategies on how to fix certain situations before you even encounter them. So it's getting advice and being able to go ask someone a question on a particular issue that you're facing without you having to go through it by yourself. These are people that can then advocate for certain, even if it gets to a situation where certain policy change can be done, it's more likely that your particular government is willing to listen to you as an association, as a group of people, as opposed to you, shouting about one particular situation that you're facing by yourself. So I would definitely say try and find out your closest cross-border traders association and join them. It would definitely make your life much easier, as well as give you access to certain solutions such as ours, because sometimes it's much easier for me to disperse information to one particular group that will then rain it down to their members, as opposed to, let's say, trying to reach out to one-on-one people. Some of them may not be online. And, unfortunately, in this day and age, if you're not online and you're not part of a group, access to information is something that may really, really escape you. So once again, I would really say look for your closest cross-border traders association. It will make your life much easier.
Wow, that's very powerful. Cross borders associator traders associations. They seem to be in almost of the every country. So check out on
Yeah,
that. And if you have information, we are here as African Men Trade.
of
Our
course. Yeah,
share all those information. Send to us anytime. And I'm actually looking how we can even support you and work with you also in the future. These are
of
conversations
course.
we're working together in partnership with Africa Women in Trade, as we embrace our women who are doing a great work. And I can see a lot of synergizing here as well. So Africa Women in Trade, I'm telling you, this is going to be something for us and also for you
Of
and
course.
new people who want to start logistics. If you want to buy trucks and start logistics, this is a place to be. Connect also with Thumeza. and Stacy, who is going to link you up with the other logistic people. Right now, we are dealing with Zambia and Zimbabwe. That's this area at the moment. So if you are from these two countries, Zambia, my members in Zambia, I know you are so many of them. Should be happy to hear this, and I know you're all busy in your business. But if you listen to this later, let's see how they can also come in and also be part of the solution in terms of being this stop, how do you call them, the shops where to deliver or to
Yeah.
receive the products.
Yeah.
This is something that I'm seeing that the synergy. So I'll be following up with you on that, how we can do that with our members. So if there is no other question there, I want to thank everyone who made it to join us. And as I told you earlier, we are having this month is all about Africa Women's Day, which is officially on 31st of July of 31st of July. So every month, as a routine, we always add are sharing a lot about how uh, a woman, a CEO. I don't know whether you saw yours. Have you seen it? Yours is coming, by the way. You are a CEO. How did we? You wait. That one is coming every day. Every day. If you go to our website, I ask you to check Africa Women's Day, Africa, although it's called Africa's Women's Day. We are still figuring where the S gonna be and all, but officially it's called Africa's Women's Day on the Africa Union, which is on 31st. So what we do every day, the whole month, we have a theme, and the theme for this year is about CEOs and founders, and that's where you fall in. And we are elevating CEOs and founders of Africa every single day, and what they're doing and their solutions they're bringing to for Africa, celebrating the Africa Women's. And then on 31st, we have a virtual event where we'll be inviting all of you to come in, and you can register. So if you go to the website www.africawomenday.africa, you can register there. We have a community there, which we do this every other year. So it's a routine for the last 3 years. We did the president's last 2021, and then 2022 we sang unsung heroine, and this time is we are celebrating the CEOs and founders. So if you're one of them there, you can also support the organization. As you can see there, the theme is Empowered Women, Empowered Africa. So spotlighting Africa, female founders and CEOs. So on the 31st of July, it will be the day we'll be having from 5 to 8, almost 3 hours. We have a very prominent guest. As usual, we don't disappoint you. And this year is a special one. We are working together with young girls in tech in Nigeria. We are partnering with them. They're the ones behind all these glamorous, whatever you're seeing there, the background. Very young, and I'm talking young as from 8 to 15 years old, And they have the group that they train the tech. They are doing the research, who are the CEO and founders. They're also getting empowered as well as they do this, and they're sharing with you every day. So if you want to donate, if you go on the website, we have a donation button. You can donate as well to give back to what the activity, especially supporting them with the computers and work, what they're doing. So, sorry. So these are very exciting activities, and I'm encouraging you all to join. Sorry. So yeah, so just to end the day, thank you so much for joining us, and see you again next month with another guest. And have a lovely day for now. Bye bye for now. Bye.